Hello everyone, and welcome to our channel. Before we begin, if you love stories that touch your heart and make you think, don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and leave a like. Every day, a new story that will surprise you. Now let's begin. The school bell echoed across the campus of Brookdale High School, one of the most prestigious private schools in California. This was a world of tailored blazers, brand-name sneakers, and long lines of luxury cars pulling up to the front gates each morning. The students walked with effortless confidence, as if their futures had already been written. Ivy League admissions, powerful careers, and inherited status carved into stone. All except Jamal Harris. He stepped off the worn-out school bus with a frayed backpack slung over one shoulder. His faded gray hoodie, scuffed sneakers, and slightly tangled curls under a baseball cap made him stand out like a misplaced puzzle piece. But in his eyes, there was no shame, only a quiet belief in himself. He walked into the advanced math classroom, an elite space reserved for the top-performing students. As soon as he stepped in, silence fell. Dozens of eyes turned to him like he was a glitch in the system. Up front sat Chase Montgomery, blonde hair, polished shoes, and a pressed shirt. He smirked when he saw Jamal. "Yo, did the school change its admission policy or something?" Someone whispered loudly from the back. Laughter erupted. Jamal heard all. He said nothing. He quietly chose a seat near the window and sat down. The teacher entered, Mr. Collins, tall and thin, always stern, his glasses perched precisely on his nose. He surveyed the class with a tight smile. "Today, to kick off a new semester, I've got a little challenge for you," he said, turning to write on the board. A complicated equation stretched across it, filled with symbols and functions most students couldn't follow. This problem stumped every student last year. Anyone who solves it gets 10 bonus points on the final grade and the title of math star of the class. Let's see if anyone's up for it this year. Chase leaned back in his chair with a smug smile. He whispered to his friend, "I bet $50 the new kid can't even read the question." Jamal heard. Still no reaction. That night, in a tiny apartment on the third floor of a worn-down building, Jamal sat at a small desk under the dim yellow light. His mother, Nurse Harris, was preparing for her night shift at the hospital. "Did you eat yet?" "I left some soup and sandwiches in the fridge," she asked. "I'm good, Mom," Jamal replied with a small smile. "Just working on a math problem." She glanced at the pages filled with complex notes and equations. "I don't understand any of that," she chuckled, "but I know you'll figure it out." She placed a hand gently on his shoulder. "You're the smartest person I know. Don't let anyone make you doubt that." Jamal nodded. As the door closed behind her, he set up his phone on a small shelf and started recording, a habit he developed whenever tackling tough problems. His pen flew across the page. His mind, sharp as a blade, carved through the equations. Line by line, step by step, the solution unfolded. By 1 a.m., he was done. He saved the video, taped his handwritten work into his notebook, and scribbled one last sentence at the bottom. "Never let anyone else define your worth." The next day, Jamal handed in his solution without a word. He walked up to Mr. Collins after class, placed the paper on his desk, and walked out. 3 days passed. No announcement. No recognition. Nothing. Then Friday came. In the middle of math class, Mr. Collins smiled faintly. "I'm pleased to announce that one student has solved the challenge problem," he said. "This year's math star is Chase Montgomery." Applause filled the room. Jamal froze. Chase strutted to the front of the class to receive a small envelope and a plaque with his name engraved. He turned to Jamal and gave a smug wink. "Guess that wasn't so hard after all," Chase bragged. "Only took me one night." More laughter. More mockery. Jamal clenched his fists beneath the desk. He knew the truth. He had solved the problem. He had submitted it first. And, somehow, Chase had copied it and taken all the credit. What Jamal didn't know, yet, was why the teacher stayed silent. On Monday morning, Jamal stood outside Mr. Collins's office, gripping his notebook tightly. He'd barely slept the entire weekend, replaying the announcement over and over in his head. He wasn't angry about the prize. He didn't care about the plaque or the bonus points. He cared about the lie. He knocked. "Come in," Mr. Collins called. Jamal stepped inside, his voice steady. "Sir." I believe there's been a mistake. I turned in the solution to that problem before Chase. I have proof. Mr. Collins didn't look up from his desk. Your name wasn't on the submission. It was, Jamal insisted. I wrote it clearly at the top of the page, and Jamal. Mr. Collins finally looked at him, folding his hands. That kind of accusation is serious. Do you have any evidence that you actually solved the problem? Yes. Jamal pulled out the notebook. This is my original solution, and I recorded myself solving it, date and timestamp included. I can show you. Mr. Collins glanced at the notebook, unimpressed. Anyone could have written this after seeing the answer. And a video? You expect me to take that as proof? I submitted it 3 days before the announcement. I know you saw it. Why didn't you say anything? The air turned cold. There was a beat of silence. Then Mr. Collins leaned back and said calmly, "Let it go, Jamal. Sometimes in life, things aren't fair. You're new here. I suggest you focus on your studies and move forward." Jamal stared at him, stunned. The message was clear: back down. Forget it ever happened. But Jamal couldn't forget. That afternoon, as he walked down the hallway toward the science wing, he heard his name. "Joe Einstein." Chase called from behind, surrounded by his usual posse. "You doing homework for extra credit now, too?" The others laughed. Jamal kept walking. Chase jogged up beside him. "Hey, listen, I heard you were upset about the math thing. Don't sweat it. You probably just got confused." Jamal stopped. "Confused?" Chase smiled, all mock sincerity. "Yeah, it's a hard problem. It happens. Don't take it personally." Jamal's jaw tightened. "You stole my work." Chase's smile faded for a split second, then returned, wider than before. "You think anyone's going to believe you over me?" He leaned in, voice low. "This school runs on money and reputation. My dad donates half the computers in the lab. Mr. Collins knows which side his bread is buttered on. So do you now." Then he patted Jamal on the shoulder and walked off, whistling. Jamal stood frozen in place. This wasn't just about one problem. This was how the system worked. A machine of favors, names, and deals made behind closed doors. And he, with his second-hand backpack and his single mother working night shifts, was never meant to be anything more than background noise. Unless he broke the system. That night, Jamal opened his laptop and watched the video again. The camera, slightly tilted, showed his desk lit by a single lamp. In the background, you could hear his mother humming as she prepared her nursing bag. The footage was grainy but clear. He walked through each step, explaining aloud as he wrote. His voice was calm. His reasoning was flawless. At the end, he looked at the camera and smiled faintly. It was real, and it was enough. If he could find someone who believed him. Jamal clicked export and saved the video to a secure drive. Then he opened his email and wrote, "To Lauren Spencer at Brookdale.edu. Subject, something you should see. Dear Ms. Spencer, I'm sorry to bother you, but I believe a serious mistake has happened in Mr. Collins's class. I was the student who solved the advanced math challenge, but the credit was given to someone else. I have proof, both written and video. I know you're just a teaching assistant, but I've seen how you treated students fairly. If you're willing to hear me out, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you. Jamal Harris." He hesitated, hovered over the send button, then clicked. The next morning, Jamal didn't expect a reply. But by lunchtime, he received a message. From Lauren.Spencer at Brookdale.edu. Subject, something you should see. Jamal, I saw your message and watched the video. I believe you. Please come to room 214 after class. Ms. Spencer. It was the first time in days Jamal let himself breathe. In room 214, Ms. Spencer, young, bright-eyed, and known for her quiet kindness, sat across from him as Jamal replayed the footage. She watched intently, her brow furrowed. When the video ended, she leaned back and said, "That was brilliant and unmistakably yours." "I don't know what to do," Jamal said quietly. "No one will listen." "They will now," she said firmly. "But it has to be done the right way. I'll bring this to the Academic Ethics Committee. In the meantime, can you do something for me?" "Anything. I want you to solve another problem. One even harder than the first. Solve it in real time, in front of a few trusted staff members. That way, no one can deny what you're capable of." Jamal blinked. "Okay. When?" Miss Spencer gave a wry smile. Tomorrow. Third period. I'll handle the rest. That night, Jamal barely slept. This time, not because of fear, because of focus. He didn't want revenge. He wanted justice. He sat in front of his window as the city lights blinked in the distance, whispering to himself the steps of complex equations. He wasn't just fighting for one grade. He was fighting to be seen, to be heard, to matter. By third period the next day, Jamal stood alone in a quiet conference room near the faculty offices. A whiteboard stood in front of him, gleaming under the lights. His palms were slightly sweaty, but his grip on the marker was steady. This was it. Behind him sat 4 people. Ms. Lawrence Spencer, who'd organized the session. Mr. Ramirez, a respected senior math teacher. Mrs. Lynn, an academic counselor with a reputation for fairness. And finally, to Jamal's surprise, Principal Hastings. The principal adjusted her glasses, arms crossed. Miss Spencer tells me this is about academic integrity. Go ahead, Jamal. Show us what you've got. Jamal nodded, turned toward the board, and took a deep breath. The problem Miss Spencer had given him that morning was brutal. A multivariable calculus challenge that most college students would struggle with. Jamal didn't hesitate. His mind clicked into gear. He mapped out the steps, narrating each one as he wrote, defining variables, identifying patterns, running through substitutions, isolating functions. The board began to fill, left to right, top to bottom. There was no memorization, no stalling, only understanding. By minute 22, he was writing the final line. By minute 24, he dropped the marker. And by minute 25, the room was completely silent. Miss Spencer was the first to speak. Would anyone like to challenge his method? Mr. Ramirez shook his head slowly. That was flawless. Mrs. Lynn looked stunned. How old are you again? 16, Jamal said, voice low. The principal sat forward, suddenly alert. You solved that at 16? I solved a harder one last week, Jamal replied, opening his notebook. He laid the handwritten pages on the table in front of them. Here's the solution I submitted to Mr. Collins. And here's the original file metadata for the video, date and time stamped. I solved the days before Chase Montgomery turned it in. He said the name with no venom, just fact. Principal Hastings took a moment to examine the notebook, flipping through the notes. Her expression was unreadable. Then she looked up and said, And you're saying Mr. Collins knowingly ignored this submission? Ms. Spencer added gently, There's more. We have reason to believe the Montgomery family may have influenced the decision. Mr. Ramirez raised an eyebrow. You mean bribe him? I didn't say that, Ms. Spencer replied, but Chase's solution was almost identical to Jamal's, down to the formatting, and Chase's previous test scores don't match the skill level. Mrs. Lynn nodded slowly. We need to investigate this thoroughly. Jamal's heart thumped as the principal stood. Thank you, Jamal, she said. You may return to class. We'll handle it from here. Jamal gathered his things in silence. For the first time since transferring to Brookdale, he felt something strange. Not fear, not defiance, hope. But the story was far from over. That evening, Chase's father, Douglas Montgomery, stormed into Principal Hastings' office. He was a tall, broad man in a designer suit, and he didn't knock. You call my son a cheater? He barked. You question my family's name? Principal Hastings didn't flinch. We're conducting an internal review based on credible evidence. I've donated over $300,000 to this school. I paid for your new science wing. Donations don't buy dishonesty, she said firmly. Your son is welcome to defend himself if he chooses. But this matter is not up for negotiation. He leaned in, eyes cold. You don't want to make an enemy out of me. She met his gaze, unwavering. Then perhaps you should have raised a better man. Meanwhile, Jamal walked home under the golden light of late afternoon, his backpack heavier with books, but his steps a little lighter. His mother was already home, early for once. I got a call from the school, she said as he walked in. From the principal. Jamal braced himself. They believe me. She nodded, eyes misty. They do now. He collapsed into her arms. I thought they'd never see me, Mom. I thought I was invisible. She held him tight. They see you now, baby. And soon, the whole world will. The next day, word started to spread. At first, It was just whispers in the halls. Did you hear what Jamal did? He solved that impossible problem. No way. Isn't he that kid with the old shoes? Yeah, and apparently, he's smarter than everyone. By lunch, the school's unofficial gossip Instagram page had posted screenshots from a math session, leaked, no doubt, by someone in the staff. A side-by-side comparison of Jamal's notebook and Chase's submission went viral within the school. The caption read, "One solved it. One stole it. Guess which one gets into Yale? Hashtag Justice for Jamal." Students stared as Jamal passed through the cafeteria that day. Some in awe, some in guilt, some in silence. But no one laughed anymore. 2 days after the special evaluation session, Jamal Harris walked into Brookdale High as if the whole planet had shifted its orbit. The hallway went silent as he passed. There were no more sneers, no more mocking whispers, only curiosity, awe, and quiet discomfort from those who used to laugh at him. But Jamal wasn't there for attention. He was there for truth. That morning, the entire student body was summoned to the auditorium for an urgent assembly on academic integrity. Sitting in the front row was Chase Montgomery, alongside his father, Douglas Montgomery, his face stormy and pale with restrained fury. On stage sat Principal Hastings, Ms. Lauren Spencer, and Mr. Ramirez. Jamal was invited to the podium. A spotlight hit him square in the face. He didn't flinch. "Good morning," Jamal began, voice calm but firm. "I'm not here to be applauded. I'm here to speak about the value of truth, something I once thought didn't apply to someone like me." The hall held its breath. He recounted the events, the math problem, his solution ignored, the stolen credit, the cover-up. He presented the facts as they were. Nothing exaggerated, nothing omitted. Someone once told me, this school wasn't made for a person like you. So today I ask, what exactly is a person like me? A ripple of applause broke out, soft at first, then growing into a wave across the auditorium. Chase's face turned red. His father stood up abruptly. "This is character assassination." Douglas barked. "My son didn't steal anything." Principal Hastings stood, calm as ever. "We have video evidence, original drafts, and handwriting analysis. If you disagree with the board's findings, you're welcome to file a formal challenge, but do not distract from the truth." And then the unexpected happened. As the meeting neared its end, a man stepped onto the stage, dark-skinned, salt and pepper hair, commanding presence in a sleek charcoal suit. He didn't need an introduction. Everyone instantly recognized him. "My apologies for the interruption," he said, voice resonant. "I'm Terrence Malone, CEO of Malone Tech, and the primary sponsor of Brookdale since last year." The crowd whispered. Terrence Malone was one of the first African-American tech billionaires in Silicon Valley, but no one had ever seen him show up in person at school events. "I was recently made aware that a student at this school was denied fair treatment. I reviewed the footage, the paperwork, and when I saw the face of that young man, I couldn't believe it." Students turned to look at Jamal. Jamal blinked, confused. Terrence walked closer, locking eyes with him. His voice broke slightly. "Jamal is the name of the son I gave 14 years ago. The same name I whispered before the woman I loved disappeared, while carrying my unborn child." The auditorium froze. Jamal stood there, unmoving. "I searched for them for years, but the trail was cold." Then, watching Jamal solve that problem, I saw it. The expression, the thought pattern, the quiet intensity, identical to how I was at his age. He pulled out a document. "I ran a DNA test using a hair sample from Jamal's notebook. The results came in this morning." He raised the page. Conclusion: 99.97% probability of paternity match. Gasps swept through the room. Jamal's lips parted. He couldn't speak. Terrence stepped forward, gently placing a hand on his shoulder. "I'm sorry I wasn't there to raise you, but from this moment on, I'll never leave your side again." After the assembly, Mr. Collins was suspended and placed under ethical investigation. Chase's title was revoked, and he was barred from any academic competitions for the semester. The Montgomery family quietly withdrew their donations. Jamal was officially honored as the school's outstanding student and awarded a full scholarship, funded personally by the man he now knew as his father. But the greatest reward for Jamal wasn't the applause, or the scholarship. It was that the truth had finally spoken, and it had chosen him. The Monday after the assembly felt surreal. Jamal Harris, once the poor kid with old shoes, now walked the halls of Brookdale High with the quiet dignity of someone no one could ignore anymore. But he hadn't changed who he was. He still carried the same worn-out backpack. He still sat in the back of class. He still brought a peanut butter sandwich for lunch. The difference was in the air around him. The stares were no longer mocking. They were careful, curious, some even ashamed. And in the background, whispers continued. He's the one, the billionaire's kid. But he didn't even know. No, and he still beat all of them. Meanwhile, Mr. Collins was no longer seen on campus. A formal inquiry had been launched into his academic misconduct, and rumors floated that he might lose his teaching license. As for Chase Montgomery, the fall from grace was swift and harsh. Friends who once circled him like satellites now kept their distance. His college counselor scheduled alternative options, and his father, once storming around with power, was now silent, withdrawn from school affairs. But none of that seemed to matter to Jamal, because something else was beginning to take shape, something even more important than revenge or recognition. Family. It started small. Terrence Malone didn't rush in and try to take over Jamal's life. Instead, he came gently, carefully. He took Jamal and his mother, Lisa, out for dinner at a quiet restaurant in Palo Alto. He listened more than he talked. He asked questions not just about Jamal's grades, but about his favorite music, what he wanted to build someday, and what he hated most about the world. Jamal answered slowly at first, but then one question stopped him. What do you see when you look in the mirror, son? Jamal blinked. He'd never had anyone call him that. Son, with meaning. I used to see someone trying to disappear, Jamal said softly. But now, I see someone who refuses to be erased. Terrence smiled. That's my boy. By the end of the week, Terrence arranged for a private tutor to help Jamal prepare for early college entry exams. Not to replace school, but to accelerate his dreams. He didn't hand Jamal luxury. He handed him opportunity, tools, mentorship, and the space to grow. But perhaps the biggest change came one afternoon when Principal Hastings stopped Jamal in the hallway. There's something I want to show you, she said. She led him to a side corridor near the library. Freshly painted walls, bright lights. At the end was a new glass display. On it, the Harris Center for Integrity and Innovation, dedicated to those who rise above silence and make the system listen. Inside the case, a copy of Jamal's original handwritten solution, a framed quote from his assembly speech, and beside it, his old video camera, now silent but still aimed at the truth. Jamal stood still for a long time. You made the school better, Principal Hastings said. You made us better. On the final day of the semester, Jamal stood once again at the same podium where everything had changed. But this time, it was for a different reason. He had been voted valedictorian by the student body. He looked out the faces below, not all friendly, not all understanding, but all watching. And he said, they say systems don't change, that the powerful always win. That kids like me were never meant to be anything more than footnotes. But the truth is, the system breaks when we stop whispering, when we show up with our minds, our courage, and our voices. I'm not here today because of a last name. I'm here because I didn't let them define mine. Applause thundered through the auditorium. This time, there was no bitterness, no pretending, just clarity. After the ceremony, Jamal walked out into the sunlight. Terrence stood waiting by a sleek black car, smiling wide. You ready? He asked. Jamal glanced back at the school, at the building that had tried to silence him, then was forced to listen. He nodded. Yeah, I've got a world to rebuild. They got in the car. The door shut. The engine purred to life. And, just like that, the boy they never planned for became the future they never saw coming.